It's a pleasure to be here. It's great. Have you been having a good time? Good time? Yeah. Okay.
We wanted to ask you something about. Do we have the first slide?
No.
No, not yet.
No.
Okay, let's wait until we. Or let's start anyway. The first slide was wie geht es deinem Purpose? Wie geht es deinem Purpose? And we thought to introduce some German into this summit here. And there's a reason why we thought, because we were talking, Elizabeth and I, about purpose. And I don't know how many of you know this, but the Germans probably know this, that you cannot translate purpose into German language. You cannot. And it's interesting because Elizabeth and I, we live a dual language life. How many words don't translate? Every language falls a little slightly different, and the different universe opens up in the different language that you're living in. So when you're living in the English language, you're living in a slightly different universe than you're living in German. Definitely Chinese or Bantu, just to bring some global perspective into this. And because there is a German translation for purpose. It's, for example, Zweck, but you would not be able to have a summit about Zweck. There's a German word, I think, that would be closest, but it's not a translation, it's something completely different. It's Sinn, the Sinn des Lebens, which is related to, if you translate this back to English, it's meaning. It's meaning. But there's something different also how the German word Sinn falls and how the English word meaning falls. But there's something interesting that we thought is also important to bring into our shared investigation here, that purpose needs meaning. Purpose has meaning.
But let's first start now, or let's go back to this purpose thing, because it's its own word. By now it's starting to take a life of its own, which is thanks to things like the global purpose movement. It's becoming a global word. But in terms of us right here, so wie geht es deinem Purpose? How's it going? Do you feel connected to purpose through this weekend? Do you feel connected? Or do you feel that maybe you're the one person in the entire room that hasn't quite got aligned yet?
And just look into yourself. You have been talking about purpose since 2 days now. We are at the nearly end of this process. How is my relationship to stay with English purpose? Your.
So show of hands, who's feeling on purpose? On it, great.
Great.
Who's feeling like, oh yeah, I am, don't worry, you're not the only one, but I am the only one who's not quite got it yet. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's because purpose isn't easy. It really isn't easy. Purpose is not something that is necessarily self-evident. But purpose, let's start with something that's been a big theme of this conference, which is aliveness. How many of us feel alive, though?
All right.
All right, that's almost all of us. Purpose is alive.
Purpose is alive, and we feel purpose in our aliveness. And we have been having experiments with aliveness in this conference, in this summit. And aliveness is something that's not so easy to put into words. It's something that you feel in your guts. There's a vibration, that something is alive, that you hear, that something is an energy that you are connected to. And basically, a fundamental foundation of our humanness is our aliveness. We share this with our ancestors, there is no humanness, there is no human experience with our experience of being alive.
And just touch into that aliveness for a second. Just touch into that sense of aliveness that you said, yeah, I'm feeling that. Just touch in. What are its qualities? What is it? How would you, shout out a word that goes with that sensation of aliveness, that perception of aliveness. What's it like? Joy. Vibrant, joy. Erotic, open, yeah, allowing all. All right. So that is that aliveness that comes out of just the embodiment of life that we are is something that we share all the way back to our ancestor cultures, to the earliest cultures that were on this planet. Cultures that were in a much deeper relationship with nature than we are right now.
In fact, it's something that we can learn from our ancient cultures, because our modern and postmodern culture, to a certain degree or to a big degree, has alienated itself from our sense of aliveness. And part of the whole human journey in all its beauty, finding our individuation, finding our rationality, is also a path of alienation from our aliveness. And part also what we have been talking together here is how can we find our purpose in our being alive.
But also, purpose has meaning. Purpose has meaning, and there is a vibration to meaning also. So have you ever had the experience where you're engaged with something, trying to figure something out, and then it clicks? Right? There's that click, like, oh, wow. There's a vibration to that too. It may be more subtle than the vibration of aliveness, but it's also a vibration.
In fact, when we were talking about in the preparation of this talk, we really investigated about these different vibrations of aliveness and meaning. That purpose has both. Purpose lives from our aliveness, but purpose does not live without this kind of, wow, this makes sense. This kind of something comes into meaning, and if you feel it you feel those in your body, but also in your recognition that there's a vibration of, wow, this makes sense. That is a vibration that is aliveness, but it's also full of meaning.
And to jump a lot forward in history, that sense of meaning at a personal level is something that really has emerged in the last 500 years. And it was beautiful that Ankh said on the panel today that in his culture, which is an ancient culture, and rooted, still deeply rooted, that this sense of individual, personal sense of purpose is not, it just doesn't make sense. We need to come around to that view, which we will do later. But at the creative freedom that has burst forward in the last 500 years has given us access to purpose that was the moving purpose of the evolving cosmos, then became me, my purpose, my genius, my creative freedom, my capacity to create something, make something happen.
Because when we look into traditional societies, of course we had meaning, but there's something that is particularly strong in the last couple of 100 years, that we as individuals can develop meaning, that we step out and say, I, in my creative force, find new forms of meaning that goes beyond my family, that goes beyond society, that goes beyond tradition. This creative force for me, for us, to create meaning is something that is very powerful. And this creative freedom is something that's part of our aliveness, and it's part of our aliveness that's particularly strong in our modern and postmodern culture. There are downsides to it, and there are upsides to it. This creative force, that meaning is not something that's given. Meaning is something that is creative, a creative force that unfolds through us, through our conscious choice.
And does that have a vibration? My creative freedom? Does it? Yeah. That has a vibration also. And it has a direction, doesn't it? And it's not simply given. It's not fixed. Purpose is also emergent. Purpose emerges through my life circumstances, my personal history, the story that we've heard beautiful stories in these last 2 days of people coming on purpose, people going through processes to come to know themselves in deeper and deeper ways. This emergence between my history and cultural history, where are we on this planet, what's going on, is a part of purpose, which is why it's not easy necessarily to find. It doesn't exist pre-given. It's not something that sort of that doesn't come without a process, without a deep process that is finding your particular place in relationship to the stream of life and history as a whole.
There was one particular moment, just I think an hour ago, and I think most or all of us were here, when Ankh spoke about purpose in his African context. And he said there's something different. His tradition understands context where it's not my purpose. There's no my purpose without your purpose. There's something interrelated in these traditional societies. He calls this Ubuntu, and some of us know the beauty of African Ubuntu philosophy, where basically the interdependent reality of all is deeply experienced. There's something about our culture, and with our culture I mean particular the modern, postmodern culture, where my particular searching for purpose becomes, to the good and to the bad, a center stage thrive of existence. We have to find purpose that has this upside. As we talked, there's a creative freedom in it. It's not just built into my tribe, into my society, what purpose is. I can find this purpose and I can live this purpose. We talked a lot about this in this. I can live and have to find and live my purpose. But there is also, it's me. And there's kind of a separation in this purpose where it becomes me and just about me. A forgetfulness. The purpose is maybe deeply embedded in the aliveness of the universe, in the aliveness of our globe, Earth, in the aliveness of our human society, of our human reality that we live in since millions of years. To see that purpose comes from the cosmos, it comes through Mother Earth, it comes through our tribal existence, it comes through our traditional existence, and it develops to the way we look and search for purpose in our modern and postmodern times.
So purpose is also co-creative, because even in the illusion that I have my purpose alone, I'm saying it's an illusion, even in that thought it's an illusion, because it depends on language which we share. It depends on meaning that is made together, that is made in relationship to a larger context. I can't live my purpose without working with other human beings and making and finding ways to make something happen together. So always purpose is co-creative. And despite the drive, and I think the drive of the individual to realize an individual purpose, that always has to be in relationship to something larger. And that something larger is both our culture, each other, our community, our society, and the situation that we find ourselves in now that Terry Patton spoke so powerfully about this morning.
So maybe we are coming back to something that we lost and coming back in a different new level. Maybe we are coming back to what Ank talked about today, about this Ubuntu, that basically everything, also our purpose, is interconnected. But we come to this again, deeply acknowledging the creative drive of us as individuals to find and search new knowledge. Maybe this creativity that we, to a big degree, found through our individuation process can be reconnected to the simple fact we are not separate. Even creativity, creation, is not separate. Maybe there's a turning point from creativity to the acknowledgement even creativity in the end is co-creative.
And right now, we need to come back to that, as you were saying, Thomas. We need to realize the co-creative nature of purpose, the co-creative potential of purpose, because we need to give rise to something even bigger than an individual purpose. We need to give rise to new co-creative potentials and purpose in order to respond to the situation that we're in. I found it very powerful when Terry was saying this morning, we can't hold in our minds what it is that's happening on this planet. The fact that we are at a crisis point, and maybe we're even beyond a crisis point. Maybe we're not there yet, maybe we're beyond, we don't know. But what's amazing is that at this point of potential absolute catastrophe, there are new potentials coming online that is a deeper kind of co-creativity. Not just, hey, I'm creating something and we're working together on it, but is a co-creativity that is emergent out of the moment that we're in and out of the potential of our being in relationship.
So maybe our rediscovery of deeply being in relationship is connected to what Terry Patton brought this morning to us, to realize that there is a real situation we are in, and this situation is the state of the earth in all the crises that you were describing. And we are in this together. My finding of purpose, and your finding of purpose, and your finding of purpose, and your finding of purpose is united, that we are together in a global situation that needs mine, your, our response to it. My purpose is not separate from our situation that we have to respond to. And if we discover that this is something that I'm not confronted in my isolated way, but we are together in this deeply, that we can co-creative find new answers to the situation of our world, maybe there's a new form of purpose, a new form of creativity.
And we've been doing a lot of experimenting with creating new spaces where a different kind of co-creativity happens. Because co-creativity is a big buzzword, right? It's like, oh yeah, we're co-creative at work, we're co-creative together. But we're pointing to something that is more fundamental than simply coming together and each chipping in our ideas and saying, hey, I've got this, you've got this, let's put it all together. What we're speaking about is something that is felt in the potential in between us. And I think if you take just a minute and just sort of sit back, maybe close your eyes for a second or two, feel the space. Feel the space between us. What's possible here? Do you feel in not going simply into one's own body, but holding one's own body open into the space that's between us? Do you feel that there's something there that is something that you don't necessarily know what could happen next.
And something that you don't necessarily own. Yes, I'm conscious. Yes, you are conscious. Yes, we are conscious, but maybe there's a consciousness that is also all of us in between us. Maybe you can be aware that there's a consciousness that is held by all of us as we are sitting here together in this room. A consciousness that is more than just the addition of all our consciousnesses. A consciousness that is co-conscious.
And in this co-consciousness, the spiritual practice that we've been doing becomes so important. Our shadow work, for sure. But also our capacity to access depth and consciousness itself. Because consciousness itself is not something that I own or that ends in my body. It actually pervades everything. It is in and through everything. It is in between. And it's this vibration of aliveness that is in between, that is the beginning of a co-conscious, co-intelligent, co-creativity that takes us into a deeper coherence together. Can you feel in the room right now that there's it feels smoother, more coherent? There's a coherence that emerges in this co-conscious space. What we're asking is, what is our co-creative purpose?
And let's dive into this co-conscious space that we just tipped into, and just dive into your own awareness and this possibility that there's something that is awareness that we share. That there's even, and this is really something maybe to lean into, there's an intelligence that we share. There's a co-intelligence that emerges just out of the fact that we are here together in relationship. Intelligence that is more than my and your intelligence. Something that only comes to its own intelligence because we are together. And out of this, maybe there are creative solutions that come out of this shared space that we are sharing here together.
Because we have spoken a lot about wisdom and ancient wisdoms that exist at subtle levels of intelligence. And together, in this co-creative we space, we can begin to access different dimensions of intelligence, different ways of knowing and understanding that are not of the mind, that require that our hearts be open, that require that we sit in openness through our entire body. But from that, there begins to be a momentum and a capacity for knowing together and co-creating meaning together in new ways. And it's in that capacity together, co-creatively, that perhaps, and it's a perhaps, we can begin to help each other stay awake to the larger dilemma and the demand of purpose in our time that is related to our planet, that is related to the potential of life on this planet. Perhaps we can keep each other awake and begin to harvest the wisdom that we each hold as individuals, and also the wisdom that becomes accessible to us in the whole.
And to relate it back to purpose, maybe there's no other way to find purpose in this time than for dialogue with each other. I need you to find purpose. You need me to find purpose. And I had several experiences in smaller and bigger conversations on this weekend where we talked about purpose in constellations of 5 or 3, and I realized how being together in this conversation, my sense of my purpose was changing. It was even in my understanding of who I am, was changing in relationship to the people I was together with. There's something where we have to appreciate each other in our search for purpose, because I, on my own, I'm not able to find this. I'm not able to find new depths of purpose if we don't start a conversation where we realize that, of course, it is my, your, and your purpose, but it's co-evolving through our conversation. It's co-evolving through our presence, through our togetherness, here in this room, here in this city, Berlin, here in this continent, here on this earth, and also here in this cosmos.
And in your listening to others and discovering your own purpose more deeply, there's a paradox in that. And it is that in my being willing to listen, in our being willing to listen at a much deeper level to each other, to be able to hear the ground that we come from, the experiences that we've had, to be able to be mirrors to each other, to reflect each other, but also to reflect as a microcosm of the whole. To be able to reflect wholeness that is something that the mind cannot grasp, but that the heart longs for. That in that pursuit together, there is an opening to a new way of being together that has a power of creativity that is beyond what it is that we know.
Because basically we have only one simple message that we really want to communicate here, that purpose has a co-creative nature. And we need to awake to the co-creative nature of purpose. Or to put it in other, more simple words, we do need each other in order to find purpose. And we need this field of togetherness, the intelligence of our shared field, the intelligence, the brightness, the heart of our being together in order to find on an individual level, on a collective level, on a global level, what purpose is and can be.
And this last picture is of those amazing starlings in motion, the birds in flocking in creative movement and dance together. We're not starlings, but perhaps if we begin to do this dance of we can learn to be one flock together, one hive together. We can learn to unleash a new kind of creativity that really is beyond the sum of the parts. That is a window into what could be.
Maybe you experienced it similar like I did yesterday in this outrageous rave party, where we were together in this meeting, we were dancing. In the middle of the music come together. Just this come together. And deeply understanding what this means, come together. And appreciate that we are learning what togetherness on a deep level of consciousness can mean. That will be the next level of finding our collective purpose. Thank you.
Thank you.